common problem that's continuing to change, and we're going to discuss the culture of the Nanticoke Lenni-Lenape tribe of New Jersey. And I would like to introduce our presenters, starting with Mr. Mark Gould, who is the tribal chairman. Mrs. Gail Gould, his wife is a great artist and dancer. As you can see, she is a jingle bell dancer, but at the same time, now she is the reigning princess of the tribe. Can I ask Christy to explain what that means to be a princess?
Sure. To be elected to be princess of our tribe, one has to be knowledgeable of all the cultural traditions and dances, and be willing unconditionally to represent the tribe in all functions. It is up to her to help the younger generations as well to learn the dance and the culture, and it's the highest honor that can be bestowed on a young woman, and it's usually picked by the elder tribal members.
Thank you so much, Christy. Mrs. Roberta Flores, she's a member of the tribal council, and she's a great people tribe. She does a beautiful job. Mrs. Bernice, she's a great artist as well. Mrs. Patricia Rosello, she is a member of the tribal council and a storyteller and a person of great knowledge. Mr. Mosley, he is a drummer, and he's going to show us some of his skills that we learned recently. And he is also a member of the tribal council. Mr. Urie, member of the tribal council and the drummer and dancer, and a man of grand knowledge. Would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Charlie Green.
Charlie Green, oh, okay.
I'm a drummer and I'm also a dancer.
Well, the secret is that everybody knows him as BJ, and I didn't know his real name. Sorry. Mr. Alex Mosley, who is a dancer and a drummer. Mr. J. Pierce, a dancer and a drummer. Mr. Herbert Pierce, he is a member of the tribal council, and he is a drum maker, and I think he is the only one in our area.
On the Eastern Coast.
Eastern Coast, yes. And I just want to tell you very briefly that Mr. Pierce and Mr. Mosley got the apprenticeship last year for drum making here, and I was very happy. Mrs. Christy Pierce, she is a former princess, and that is why she knows so well what does mean to be a princess in a tribe. So I would like now to invite Mrs. Patricia Rosello to start the presentation.
Good afternoon. When Yvette contacted me, we sat down and we started taping and recording as she always does. She wanted to know how our tribe survived incognito without being discovered and people comes around us. So as we were talking, she said, good, that's what I want, write it down, write it down. So what you're about to hear is the perspective from my own personal life. It doesn't mean that everyone in this room's perspective, but it's my perspective of our tribal continuity. I can remember as a child growing up with a serious identity problem. I knew that everyone I knew was an aunt and uncle. I thought at first this was just a courtesy or formality, but surely all these people could not be my relatives. Every Sunday we'd often visit these folks in the community down in Delaware, over in Salem, New Jersey, over in Woodstown. Just about everywhere we went, we had an aunt or an uncle. The strange thing was when I got older, I really noticed we did resemble each other in more ways than one. We all shared the same ways of life and family traditions and customs. I mean, I did not know anyone without a garden in their backyard, or chickens, pigs, horses, and cows. Those who didn't have them knew someone who did. Ordering and trading goods was common every day. My grandmother would trade eggs for some milk, for example. Other times she baked her famous pumpkin pies and sold or traded them for other goods. I thought everyone did this as a way of life. Staples were about the only thing that we purchased at the store. We canned fresh fruits and vegetables all summer throughout the fall. We made our own jams, jellies, chow chow, pickles, Spaghetti sauce, applesauce, apple butter, you name it, we canned it. We also froze items later when we had a freezer. We had a potato cellar, which was a hole in the ground lined with salt hay and straw. This is where we kept the yams, the cabbage, the potatoes, and the turnips. We had plenty of rabbit, squirrel, quail, woodcock, pheasant, muskrat, fish, venison, chicken, ham, scrapper, sausage, and bacon in the freezer. What did we need a store for? We mostly bought things like staple items, sugar and flour. I can remember our mothers going to the fields to pick strawberries and other vegetables early in the morning before going to work. These were other farmers' fields to earn a little extra income for the family. Then returning home from their day's job, they had to take care of their own backyard garden and can and freeze the items for the day's harvest. In the winter evenings, our mothers and grandmothers could always be found knitting, crocheting, embroidering, or sewing while catching a show on TV. Store-bought clothing were a treat, not a necessity. Why? Because everyone handed down their used clothing to someone else. We wasted nothing, not even clothes or shoes. Often shoes that were given to you went to the shoemaker for new soles or heels several times before they finally were discarded. Never were their hands idle. We churned butter from the cream off the top of the milk. Sometimes we even shook it in a mayonnaise jar if there was not a butter churner available. We made homemade ice cream on the front porch while singing and playing. Muskrat hides could be found hanging on wire racks in the basement, as well as other hides. It was a sin ever to not clean your plate at dinner time. Our people tried to utilize everything Creator provided us with. This was our way of life. Everyone respected each other and each other's property. Our people's philosophy was that it takes an entire village to raise a child. By this, they meant that if your neighbor, your aunt or uncle, or anyone in the community caught you doing or saying something you shouldn't be, then this person had the family's permission to punish you as if you were their own child. Then they usually told your parents and you were punished again. In most homes, the mother was a disciplinarian. The father was too busy working, hunting, fishing, and putting food on the table. He usually was gone or busy from sunup to sundown. When he came home from his job, there was the garden to tend to, make sure the animals were cared for properly, and other odd jobs to complete. If it were a serious offense, then your father would handle it. And trust me, we never wanted to do anything that required his attention. Most of my relatives, including my dad and his 7 brothers, were all union carpenters. Everyone that I knew when I was younger was a tradesman, either a carpenter, a mason, electrician, auto mechanic, or farmer. That meant they helped each other with their own homes in their spare time on the weekend. They did a house from the basement to the roof. They did their own electric work, plumbing, and sheetrocking. My grandparents before them were carpenters that specialized in shipbuilding. They built bridges, subways in New York and highways. Whenever a job required climbing high heights or danger, you could bet the Native Americans were on the job. Our entire community taught each other what they knew about a trade and shared the knowledge with each other. It was not until my generation that you heard tell of anyone in the community going to college or business school to learn a profession. This was a rare and few in between happening. Those that did never returned to the community. It was too high a risk for the community to take or allow outsiders into the community. We were a community of struggling Native Americans hiding incognito. We were very active and busy within the community, yet as a people we were invisible to all except to those that resided within the community. Yet we all survived and lived, for the most part, long, happy, productive lives. We all helped and needed each other. If a member of the community was sick, hungry, or cold, the entire community came to help and offer aid. Many of our tribal members were born right at home and delivered by the midwife or grandmother. Hospital births were a rare luxury. You could always tell when a new baby arrived in the community by the diapers hanging on the clothesline in the backyard. Your neighbors saw the diapers and other baby items hanging and came to visit you with food and help with anything that needed to be done around the house until the mother was well enough to do it herself again. Many common ailments were cured by home remedies. A visit to the doctor's office was very rare. Most members of the community never received any dental care. This too was a rare incident. Toothaches were handled with home remedies. Despite these facts, most of our people lived long, productive lives. The irony to this is that Not until recently, when homeopathic medicine was used less frequently and doctors' visits become normalcy, did the death and mortality rates begin to climb. These Native Americans that lived here incognito were known as the keepers of the land. Why? Because in our small little community, the land was never sold. It was always handed down transgenerational from one generation to the next. Everyone always knew their neighbors and what was going on within the community. We were all related. We all knew who and what ethnic group we were, but you dare not tell anyone else or talk of it except within the community. Why? For fear of retaliation from your neighbors and friends. If anyone discovered you were a group of Native Americans that had escaped the roundup and removal to a reservation, there would be the threat of losing your home and family. Not only a threat to your family, but the entire community was at risk. We were not citizens of this land until 1926. Many Native Americans that faced removal were lost, killed, separated from families and tribes. Children were placed into boarding schools to remove the heathen from within them, remove their native language, traditions, and culture, and force them to assimilate into the palefaces world. The world of civilization, the world of Christianity, was the real world. Spiritual traditions and cultural ways were ordered to be stopped. Some had their tongues cut out if they refused to stop speaking their native language. Yet, native language was good enough to have the Navajo code talkers develop a military code for the good old USA Army that the Germans, Japanese, and other adversaries could not break during World War II. Yet we were not allowed to speak it within our community. Children were separated from their families and adopted out. We did not become citizens of the country that we were residing in for over 10,000 years that it's been documented that we have resided here at least. When Congress finally recognized Native Americans as citizens, you could not own land of any kind until then. So even Native Americans placed onto reservations did not and still do not own the land the reservations are on. The government holds the land in trust for them. The government owns all natural resources found within and on the reservational lands. It was not until August 13, 1978, that Congress signed into law the American Religious Freedom Act. This law gave Native Americans the right to practice their religious beliefs in the open again. Our families all married, for the most part, within the Native American community until my generation. We were the first to marry outside of our ethnic group and yet remain within the community, because now suddenly it was okay to stand up and say you were a Native American without fear of being placed onto a reservation. Before this, basically your friends were those that resided within the community or other well-known Native American communities. Why? Because outsiders were not allowed within the community for fear they might tell or disclose to someone what was going on within the community. We could easily be discovered for who and what we were if outsiders were allowed to remain within this community. This was just accepted by everyone. If you did decide to marry outside of your culture, you knew the price to pay was to move out of the community and never return. You had to assimilate within another culture, alone without your family or friends you grew up with, and many did choose this path. Those that remained struggled to preserve what culture they could without being discovered. We were taught many traditional ways in the privacy of our homes, but it was too risky to really do anything on a large scale. We were taught some traditional customs such as beading, tanning, basket making, and drum making, but these were on a very small scale for fear of being recognized. If anyone practiced ceremonies or sacred ways, it was in the still of the night and usually within very small family groups. We did not have tribal grounds back then, of course. We did not have a tribal headquarters or center back then. So you can see how many ways could easily become lost or misconstrued if you were limited in what you could do and how you could do and where you could do and practice these things. Finally, it became almost useless to some elders to continue them if they had no real need of them. For example, what good was making and beading a beautiful pair of moccasins if you could not wear them or use them to dance in but a rare few times a year? What use was taking the risk of making a beautiful regalia if you had no place you could wear and dance in it without being in the constant fear of discovery? An occasional powwow that you had to travel far away to attend so you would not be seen? Society was winning the battle to convert even those in hiding by making it less and less worth the struggle with each passing generation. Yet we had some who, despite what the risk was, refused to give up the traditional ways. But sadly, these were not enough. The community church became the glue that held everything and everyone together. The community had always worshiped together since the time of our recorded history, first in Fairton, New Jersey, next in Gould. The St. John United Methodist Church was built by the Native Americans in 1841 and has remained a majority Native American congregation ever since. It was recognized by the Greater New Jersey Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church in 1999 as a Native American congregation. On every month that has 5 Sundays, on the 5th Sunday we hold traditional Native American worship service within the church, complete with dancing and drumming. We became known as the Nanticoke Lenni-Lenape people because you could not marry within your own clans. It was taboo. So many of our people went across the river and married within the Nanticoke tribe of Millsboro, Delaware, and the Lenape community in Cheswell, Delaware. Soon almost every family was intermarried within the Nanticoke and vice versa. So when we finally formalized our tribe legally in 1978, we took the name of the Nanticoke Lenni-Lenape Indians of New Jersey Incorporated. We began to openly fight to preserve our culture, what remained of it. We began teaching the dancing and the drumming and various crafts to both the young and the old. This is when we truly began to understand just how much was lost. We had preserved the way of beating on the loom, but other ways had been lost. And I'm going to stop here and introduce to you Roberta Flores, who's going to show you the difference between the ways that our forefathers have preserved, such as the beating on the loom, and the ways that we have discovered recently, such as the lazy stitch. If you would like to see the beating on the loom, it's right up here.
It's kind of hard for you to see sitting back there, but these are 2 examples of loom work. On looms, the beads are strung in between all of the strings, and then a thin needle is passed back through them to hold them on. And then you can either sew it directly on material or hide. So I guess later if you want to come up and take a closer look, you can. The other type of beading is lazy stitch. Lazy stitch is done directly on a hide. And usually you do like 5 or 6 beads at a time, and you pass the needle between the hide. It doesn't go up and down, it skims underneath the surface, and it's directly onto the hide. So that's the 2 different types. This kind of simulates quill work, and instead of using porcupine quills, you convert it over to beads.
Thank you, Roberta. Some of our men have preserved traditional drum making, such as the traditional drums that you see up here, Butch. At this time, though, the drums that you see up here these are what we call traditional drums. Now that we had the approval to practice our traditions openly, without fear or retaliation, we did not have much left to teach. Many of our remaining elders who still remembered a lot of the ways refused to trust that it really was okay now to practice them again openly. They could still remember the removal of their brothers and sisters. They could remember the price that their forefathers paid and were never heard from again. The pain is still too fresh in their minds and their memory. The lack of trust in the government, who had lied and so many times in the past, was still too fresh for them to forget. With these things in mind, they still refuse to talk about some of the traditional ways for fear of retaliation. So what to do? We contacted our sisters, brothers, and cousins who had been removed from the Nanticoke to Oklahoma and Canada. These tribes are known as the keepers of the tradition. They had been allowed to practice our old ways while they remained on the reservation. This was not an easy task. We soon discovered the majority of reservational Indians despised those who had escaped removal and remained in the Nanticoke. After talking with them, however, they soon learned they had nothing to despise us for. They had figured we just escaped and assimilated within European cultural ways. Little did they know of the persecution that we went through daily, also as well as they did. The persecution of not being able to say, I am a Native American. Being listed on federal census records as simply mulatto, meaning any person of mixed color. Going to a school, but not an Indian school, to a public school where no one understood or could be told what you were. So you got called things such as high yellow, mixed breed, half breed, and some I won't even mention. Not accepted by the whites or the blacks. Knowing that it was your people who led many of the blacks out of slavery, and not being able to say anything to them when they asked you why you refused to admit that you were black also. For it was the Native Americans who were enslaved first, and did not wish slavery on their worst enemy. It was the Native Americans in Snow Creek, New Jersey, that befriended Harriet Tubman and took her to Cape May, New Jersey, across the Delaware River, and hid her and her baggage, which is called, the state was called baggage, out in Snow Creek until it was safe to travel on. We knew the rivers, the streams, and the bay better than anyone else. We had been here for over 10,000 years in this area. Nathaniel Murray, one of my ancestors, was a major operator on the Underground Railroad. He was a traveling preacher. His circuit included Hopewell, Stowe Creek, Fairfield, Deerfield, and Port Elizabeth, New Jersey. They used the church as a part of the Underground Railroad to hide the baggage out in. He was free to roam without any recourse due to his status as a traveling minister. Burying the dead that washed upon the shore was his job also. And this was a constant reminder of the price of liberty. And so it made the pursuit to free others that much greater. Smoke signals would arise over in Delaware from Smyrna, Delaware. They could be seen on the opposite shore in Springtown and Hopewell, New Jersey. The message usually indicated that there was baggage ready for immediate pickup. The number of persons in the party was also told by the smoke signal. Because of the efforts of Native Americans, many slaves were accepted and hid in the community of Springtown and in Stowe Creek near Saddle Neck instead of going on into Canada. But when the trip to Canada was necessary, the Native American communities were there awaiting and ensuring their safe arrival. They knew this route well from their own fight for freedom and fleeing from persecution at the hands of the government. Then the thank you or return was being called various names and not being able to tell them the real story of how it was your people that fought slavery so valiantly. If you did say that you were an Indian, they just laughed at you and told you to accept it that you were black. They did not know that many of us remained here and hid in clear sight. So not accepted by the whites or the blacks, we stayed amongst ourselves, being accused of being antisocial and stuck up, not allowed to bring any other outsiders within the community. When people asked you, where do you live, and you responded, Gould, New Jersey, you had to listen to them snicker and say, oh yeah, I've heard of that place. It's where cousins marry cousins and no one else is allowed. People assumed since we were all related that there must be incest going on within the community. We were not able to tell them, to help them understand about the Delaware natives marrying the New Jersey natives so they could better understand what was going on, that we were different clans of tribes, all together that married each other. This was the reason that we were all related. It was hard to know that you and your family were Native American, yet not being able to be totally true to your culture and your traditional ways. So much had been lost. So many people married and moved away and accepted other cultures and beliefs. It was much easier to try and start over than to keep carrying the albatross of being an Indian around your neck with traditions buried in your heart. Many tribal members did not dare trust writing or contacting family members that were on the reservation for fear of being discovered and jeopardizing the entire community. The letters from family and friends on the reservation, no matter how important the news was, had to be left unanswered. This lack of communication between tribal members was what caused many on the reservation to despise those left behind. Many felt that we did not want to associate with them any longer. The truth is, many tribal members cried at night for the desire to know if their others were well. But the desire to retain a little piece of our land here in New Jersey was strong in their minds. Once the keepers of the traditions understood what we went through and why, to hold on to a piece of Lenape hooking for our own and future generations, we had sacrificed a lot. It began to open up to us and a relationship developed. We had remained only with ourselves, virtually isolated from the rest of the world. They were free to tell the world that they were Native, for the world knew they were from the reservation. They were free to leave the reservation, go into town, socialize, and then return back to their private world, a world full of culture and traditions. We were not. After long dialogues and heartfelt meetings with our brothers and sisters on various reservations, we were finally understood and accepted again. We were highly praised by them for our efforts and accomplishments of holding on to the Lenape hooking, giving them a small parcel of their ancestral land to come back home to walk upon, and reunite with a spiritual connection that can only be found upon the ground that your ancestors walked on and practiced the traditional ways upon. What a day of celebration this was. Next, they gladly started to teach us ways that we had lost. They brought back to us many of the social dances that we had lost. We had nowhere or no way to hold a social dance, so the social dancing had been lost. Curtis Zuniga came from Oklahoma to share the art of making a water drum, which is required for most social dances. And at this time, Butch Pierce and Will Mosley are going to demonstrate to you the making of the water drum, which is necessary for the social dances.
Well, because of the lack of time, we went on and tied the drum. It takes about 20 minutes to tie the drum.
Basically, what we have here, there's 3 different types of drums that Native Americans use. One is a log drum, one is a water drum. We have here, you fill the kettle up with water. The level of the water determines the sound that you're trying to get. These drums here are called tom-toms. They come with various sizes, various shapes. Will you want to give us a demonstration of the drum?
Like Uncle was saying, this is the water drum. I tied it before we came out here. It is very strenuous to tie. Basically, it's a number 7 kettle, iron kettle. We fill it with water, and the top part is the deer hide, and it stretches over the top of this. As you can see, the little pieces sticking out. Inside that is a river rock, small little rock that has helped to hold the hide down. I take a sash cord, wrap it around there, tie it good, pull it down. The sash cord goes underneath, goes up on the other side, and pulls it down. This makes it nice and tight. You can hear it has a nice sound to it. At all times, this top has to be wet. If it starts to dry out, we can tip it over. As you can see, some of the water coming through. That keeps it nice and wet, and nice sound to it. It's very important to keep it tight so that it keeps the sound. We do untie it every time that we get done, and we have to tie it again once we're ready to do another dance. Like I said, it is very strenuous to tie. The bad part is you got to keep it tight, keep the hide pressed across the top.
Thank you, Will. It was a thrill and honor to be able to learn the bean dance, the stomp dance, the war dance, and the go-get-em dance once again, and know that these were the fun dances your ancestors used for courting and just plain having fun. Words cannot express the thrill of being connected again as a true family, sharing and caring for each other once again in every way. The Lenapes from Oklahoma, Canada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Kansas on one before each other again. This was a time of rejoicing and celebration. A celebration that is still ongoing. A time of sharing our hopes and dreams. There were reservational families who had retained the language and others who passed the knowledge of herbal healing on to their children. We can now practice and teach herbal healing again on a much larger depth than before. We here in Lenape-Hoking had families who still dance and pray to the Creator, but usually in their homes. Many children and adults can recall parents or grandparents huddled around the kitchen table at night speaking of the traditions of the Lenapes and the Delawares. We are now working together with Bruce Stonefish, who is from the Delaware Nation of Lenapes in Ontario, Canada, to regain our native language and teach it to our young children before it vanishes forever. And 4 of the dances that Curtis brought back to us were the 4 that I mentioned: the stomp, the bean, the gourd, and the go-get-em. And we're going to demonstrate to you the stomp, the bean, and the go-get-em this afternoon. And as our dancers are getting ready, we have a story that was handed down to me from an elder of his memories of the first stomp dance he attended. It said, once Dad and Uncle Pete took me out there by the old bogey depot where once there had been a big battle, and you could find old bullets and arrowheads. The stump ground was very old, so old the circle was stumped flat as the floor and knee-deep in dirt. Over 100 years, somebody said, Every year a new brush arbor was built and the old one was rebuilt. Now I will tell it like they would tell it. Me creeping everywhere, trying to listen, listening to the elders and learning. 4 clay pots of cedar and tobacco smolder around it. There are big pots of chopped corn beer. Dad and Pete brought some pig and vegetables, and it seemed to me a jar of moonshine from somewhere. Dad and Pete laughed over a story about someone, I believe it was Grandma in Nevada, making a lot of persimmon beer. So smooth it was like juice, but yet so strong it kicked you in the head. And everybody getting drunk with terrible hangovers the next day. They got some pickups here now. It used to be only wagons and mules or horses circled the stump ground. Sometimes us kids would crawl under the wagons and around the animal booths. None ever offered to kick us. We were just being nosy and trying to learn what we could learn and see what we could see. No one watches the kids, but yet everybody watches the kids. In old Indian times, were foolish fond of kids. This was before men had no place for themselves. The women were separated and living in boxes, and dues began to replace honor. Old men and women sat around the edge of the ground and told stories. Some of them I'll tell you later. One day, one told a story about his pop and about old Mingo, back in the old country, before they were made to cross the river, not the young stump dance of today. It would be good to be back there, to smell the wood smoke and hear the wind and the people's voices and the drums, the big old man drum made 100 years back from a piece of sycamore as thick as 6 men's bodies and prayed and smoked like for 1,000 years before. The man drum, he made it sound so deep, mostly you only felt it in your foot soles, but you could hear it in your heart. The big fire is in the middle, which is called the heart of the stump. The drums, they call, and the people, they answer. Come to the circle. An old man and an old woman usually lead in, and a line of people begin to move when they hear this call. And sometimes the women sing an old song with sweet high voices like birds. The man drum calls. He compels you to come. Come to the circle to dance. Maybe I hear it again before I die. Maybe so, but I'm enjoying it today. All is still, and it will be forever in my heart if I don't make it back here again. But I will miss this once I'm gone. I tell you these things to remember them. Carry them on for me. I eat bulldog and try some chopped deer. The women made much of me. Jim's boy, he looked so white. Some old ones remember Dad young when he would gallop his big black horse down the street, shooting the good citizens' windows out with a navy coat that Mom later would threaten a crowd of drunk braves with. Mom said, first Dad saw terrorizing the townspeople that way and thought he was the most handsome, dashing thing she'd ever saw. Gold skin, black hair as a crow's wing, riding a big black horse with a big black gun. She decided to marry him right on the spot. He would not be her white knight, but her dark knight, who would carry her away from a dreary common existence and the little people around her. A noble and romantic figure he was. But where he could take her, she couldn't go. She was an outsider. She was a European. And where she could go, he wouldn't take her. What a great tragedy, Mom called. This thing of life we call existence, breaking our families apart. But me, I look at the young women. They talk soft, and they cut their eyes to look at the corners of the young men. They move graceful, just like does coming out of the forest into the meadow in the morning mist. Their hair and their eyes, they shine. An old man by the pickup says, "Hey, he." Then the young women, they soft like doves down. They got eyes of shy and does, but that fire, it burns within them. A couple slip off into the dark around the fire, smoke drifting up over the water drum. We stomp all night, eat bulldog, drink chopped beer and laugh, go to sleep in the smell of the wood smoke, and smoky corn smell the Oklahoma people. Sleep with the man drum in your heart. What have we gained? I mean, the traditional Choctaws, who would generally go on mule or horse still at that time, sometimes into town. Are they still doing our stomp dances? Anyway, we went. Now listen, I will tell you how it was. The old people, they talked good English and a lot of words, but not punctuation. No periods or commas. Or one every 2 or 3 words, they would have said, huh. What for would I need some little dot or a tadpole to tell me when to breathe? And I'm a grown man. That me, I have something to tell. When I have to tell, I speak. I don't need the punctuation. So please excuse my lack of punctuation. I hope you can read this. This was sent to me by one of the elders from Oklahoma of his reminiscence of the stalk dance. At this time, we'd like to start our dancing profession by showing you the difference between the social dancing and the traditional dances. So we'll enter with the intertribal. It's a traditional powwow dance that we've known forever, just so you'll get an idea of the difference between the two types of dances.
Now, one of the things, our people were very inventive, but do you mind if I shut the fire off? I don't want anybody to trip on that cord. We can build a fire anywhere. One of the things you're going to notice that when we do the dances that are, when we say intertribal, that are the dances that we share with other tribes, we go clockwise. But when we do our Lenape dances, it's traditional for us to go counterclockwise. And so it makes a difference when we're out there in the world with other tribes that we hold tradition wherever we're at. So today you're going to see us going both ways. There are dances. Intertribal. The girls just got their leg rattles on because they thought we were going to do the stomp dance first, but they'll be with us in a second. Now, traditionally, the ladies dance around the outside perimeter of the circle. Go ahead and start dancing. I'll just stop while you're dancing. The ladies are going to dance around, and you'll notice that they always dance and keep themselves very much their modesty. Later we'll show you what happened to us in the later years where the girls could really show off their stuff. I don't know if you noticed, but when they hit the honor beat, we have two different ways of honoring the Creator. One is to recognize Him through this, or the second way is to keep your head down. And if you saw the ladies that had the eagle fans, they honored by stopping what they were doing and jumping in one spot, and they honored the Creator with the eagle fan. Pops, yeah, he had his name. With Pops and I, excuse me, we call everybody by nicknames here. We're straight dancers. This dance came from Oklahoma. It's a gentleman's dance. Of course, he's not old enough to be able to do this, but I'm old. And you have to be a grandfather to be a straight dancer. And to me, it's an honor to be able to be a straight dancer. Most of the traditional dances take a lot of energy. We have a fancy dancer that takes a lot of energy. I was hoping that we could get him out here today, but he wore his slick shoes, so he would not get messed with. But if you look at the way we're dancing today and the clothes that we wore here, when Roberta invited us, in the program that you have, it has our social dancing. Social dancing doesn't call for us to wear regalia. We come any way we want. And if you'll notice that Jay has traditional, Pops comes to dance, the party. They're half mixed between traditional and let's go enjoy ourselves. And Butch, the same thing. But over here, one of the things that I want to show you, we have our traditional buckskin that was our traditional, one of the oldest that we had before the Europeans came. And I'm thankful for the ladies that they are one that really keeps up with the old tradition. Most of our girls have buckskin regalias. Patsy has, after the European, with the broadcloth. Christy has the first design. Stand up, Christy, I want to show. She has the first design of the Lenape with the cape and everything. So what our people are really trying to do is keep it as traditional as we can. Now over here, Princess, what is your name again? That's my daughter. Watching Sparrows has a special dance. In tradition, a few years ago, there was an elder that was sick. And the young girl had a dream that she could heal this elder if she had a dream of this dress. It has 365 combs, 7 rows, and she asked the spiritual leader, can I dance this dance? That dress weighs about 45 pounds. And for her to be able to dance this dance, she had to ask our spiritual leader for permission. And he has to say, yes, you have carried yourself well, you may dance this dance. So what you have is from traditional from yesterday, traditional from after the European, and now we have over here, let's go party. That's what we're getting ready to do now. What are we doing now?
Don't say.
No, wait. Give me a jingle song.
Keep it kind of short.
She's going under knee surgery, but the doctor says she has to use that knee until surgery or it won't come out right. So I want to make her go ahead and use it today.
Traditionally, Pat had told you, we have our fire in the center of our circle, our dance circle. That's our heart, and that's what we dance around. And this dance is always done with a lead. You have what you lead, your lead caller, and then from there we have our second calling, and then we're bringing all our ladies. They have what they call shakers on the bottom of on their legs, and then from there we go man, woman, man, woman, man, woman, and this is how we'll start this out. So, all ready? Next dance we're going to do, this is one of the few times our people actually, our ladies and our women they actually make contact with one another in this dance. This dance is what we call a go get 'em dance. And during this dance you actually see the men go get the women and take them out and dance with them. And so, like I said, it's the only time our people actually come in contact with one another as we dance. And a lot of times they use it almost like as a courtship kind of dance. So, the women, they're going to gather around the drum as we start these first couple songs, and the men are going to kind of gather in the back. And then the song will change, and the men, they'll come up and they will gather the women. They'll take a woman one at a time, and they'll take the woman, they'll go around and they'll dance with them. And during that time, a lot of the guys, they would speak to the women during those times, but of course, they would have to put them back. They put the drum when we're done, and they say, keep moving on. But, so we're going to show you what's called our version of the Go Get 'em dance. So, ladies, at the top.
Hey, off the elder. You're an elder.
All right, this next dance we're going to do, this is what we call a bean dance. Now, to our people, there were, you always had three sisters, the beans, the corn, the squash, what we call the three sisters. And they were pretty much the staple of our diet. And those were the things that we presented to the Europeans when they came here. We taught them how to farm and how to plant these three systems in a certain manner, because the sisters, they fed off of one another. And our crops became, well, we were very, very good farmers. And so we lived off of these three. So we paid tribute to the beans as we did it with this dance. And basically this dance, it takes the dancers, man, woman, and they'll dance around, and they'll make like the vine from the bean would be, and they'll go around and intertwine one another. So at this time we'll have what we call bean dance. Each of those dances we just showed you, these were very short versions of the dances that we do. Usually these dances, they go on and on and on. Many songs that go with each one of these dances. And these dances, they could last all night long. With a stomp dance, it's kind of a contest between the lead bowlers. So they would try to outdo one another and see who can come up with the best call during that lead dance. So like that first one that we did, they would do that, and the next guy would, oh, I got a song better than that. He'll go, he'll do his thing. And so that's how they would take place. They would last all night long until the sun would come up. And there's many songs that go with each one of these dances, usually with the Go Get 'Em dance. The first, when the ladies come in, they gather up to the front. There's usually a series of 5 or 6 calling songs to call the ladies saying, hey, we need more women to come and dance. And they'll come and gather in front of the drum. And so that's just a little taste of what we have to offer. Thank you.
Like I said, it's a celebration that's still ongoing, and I think one of the major reasons why these guys are so gung-ho about our social dances coming back to us, because as Urie told you, men and women did not touch during the traditional dances. You didn't touch each other. All these dances are interactive. Women touch men and men touch women. So it was the first time they could do this in dancing. So I think that's why the men are so happy about the social dances. But anyway, we're working with Curtis Vinegar from Roberta, who brought these dances back to us and the water drum back to us. To regain our traditional social dances, we're trying to build our own tribal cultural center on Westcott Station Road in Fairfield Township, New Jersey. We're even dreaming and envisioning our own Native American school one day, where our children and grandchildren can come together to study, learn, and regain their native ways of life all under the same roof. This goal would better ensure that our culture would never again come in danger of being lost. We are all working hard today as a tribe to try and gain and retain our heritage. We hope that these efforts are not in vain. We pray that we fulfill this goal to better ensure the continuity of our cultural ways. What was the cost? The cost, I believe, was very high, for there was a time once when our people felt only secure within the community. Now that they are free to practice their traditional ways anywhere with no fear or retaliation from the government, the younger ones are moving out of the community and the land is being sold off. Land that had been in the family and community at least since 1705. 300 years of heritage is now at risk of being gone forever. Most are marrying outside their ethnic race, now that they are not afraid to stand up and say, I'm a Native American. Their homes are old and many are in disrepair. The younger are deciding to go to college, get an education, and move away. Mostly it's just the elderly left remaining within the community of Gould. As the Creator calls them home, the homes are being sold for the first time in 300 years. They used to be handed down and passed down within the family. I feel most importantly, we are working on a Lenape Confederacy, a confederacy that once again reunite all our people together as one. The Lenapes in Canada, Kansas, Oklahoma, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and all other parts of this country that were removed from Lenape hooking will once again be reunited under one confederacy, as one people, as we were before removal. My last and final question is, who will be keepers of the land if we all become keepers of the tradition? I'd like to end with this prayer. Grandfather, many have tried to destroy what you have created. The dancing spirits have reached down deep within my heart. They shall protect the sacred circle you have created in my heart. Your gift of such a sacred dance circle is as precious as the breath of Mother Earth. The rage of her nostrils shall not harm the ground the dancing spirits have danced on. Know the beauty of this sacred circle you are just a part of. Your brothers build alongside you. Take his hand and increase your strength. Seek his wisdom, for a river runs swift when the streams become as one. Honor his deeds, for his hand reaches for yours as the mighty redwoods reach for the sacred skies. Old one shall be as the standing bear, having his strength carried through him, through harshness. Teachings of the great warriors have turned dead trees into wise ones. And how many seasons will they turn it into stone? Those before me shall keep the dancing spirits buried in the earth in my heart. Young warriors, what you have built, let it stand mighty as the stars. We cannot change the path, but Father and Son shall guide our tomorrows. It is I that has granted you the dancing spirit. You have learned well, and that warriors that will not turn into trees nor stones. Listen to the words of the great wind, for they have carried them to your ears. You cannot live on empty promises that cause hunger to your women and children. Let no man break the sacred circle of the sacred dancing spirit. I hope.
I'd like to thank you so much. Not only presenting different problems that they have been facing over the years, but a lot of different ways in which they're trying to maintain their culture, their traditions, keep it alive, and be able to pass on to the next generation. I think that is really good for us to know what's going on in our people here in New Jersey and in Common Country, for those of you who here for the first time. Okay.